Jonambalo hilote, Jonambalo hilote.
The Nobel Peace Prize laureate, a world-famous environmental and political activist from Kenya, connecting two of our time's most burning issues under the heading Who Speaks for the Environment. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Dr. Wangari Maathai.
Thank you very much. I want to start with the words of the minister when he said, and then they came for me. I thought I would share with you some of the experiences that I have gone through as I have got to know the value of freedom of expression. And I want to start with the beginning, about 100 years ago when we first encountered the West, and the impact that had for us as a people, and how the freedom of expression for us was denied, and sometimes in a very subtle way that sometimes it destroys you, but you don't quite realize. And the first experience that I found was the fact that when we were encountered by the missionaries especially, we were denied the freedom to express ourselves in terms of what we wore, simple dress. We had to remove what we used to wear and wear what the missionaries thought was more appropriate. And that was the beginning of the inability to have the freedom to express yourself. And because that was accepted, it almost became a culture to deny people the freedom of expression. We were not allowed to dance the dances we knew, tell the stories that we used to tell. Instead of learning about nature and being told about the birds and being told stories about animals so that you learn the environment around which you grew up, you were given books of Cinderella, and you really didn't understand completely about Cinderella. And I remember, for example, when Ngugi wa Thiong'o, many of you know Ngugi wa Thiong'o, he's a great writer, and he has suffered a lot because of his writings. And I remember that at one time in the 70s, he was trying to educate people, and he was using drama and the local language. He was telling people, you cannot forget your language, because your language is the means of education, the means of giving yourself self-confidence, and the means of passing knowledge from one generation to the other. So he established a play in the village called Kameredo. And he taught local people, local villages, peasants, how to express themselves through drama. And he was critiquing the corruption, the greed, and they would express the ruling elite as people with big bodies, big tummies, and the villagers and the oppressed people as people who are skinny. And that drama became so popular with the villagers that it took the government to go there and completely demolish the theater and imprison Ngugi wa Thiong'o for many years, and denied the entire village the freedom to express themselves and to learn from each other and to express the political oppression that they were experiencing, as a few people were accumulating a lot of wealth at the expense of the majority. And in, I think it was 1973, some of you may remember, towards the end of President Jomo Kenyatta, there was one political person called J.M. Kariuki. And this man was, he was a popularist, he was a politician, he was a popularist, but he was talking about land distribution. And he was criticizing the government of President Kenyatta and saying that the inequalities, and especially about land distribution that was being carried out in the country was entrenching poverty that would be very difficult to undo. In fact, he coined a word, a phrase that we still use. He said, Kenya is going to be a country of a few billionaires and millions of poverty-stricken citizens. Now, he was talking about a situation that even to this day, we are still struggling with. Those of you who saw what happened in Kenya last year, it was really a reflection of what J.M. Kariuki was talking about in the mid-70s. He was assassinated shortly after his very fiery speaking in public places where people would literally flock and come to listen to him. He was assassinated. And to this day, we have never discovered who killed him. But we all suspect that he was eliminated because of his expressions. Recently, we had an experience where the government entered a media house, took the computers, destroyed them, some, and took some with them, and burnt newspapers. We have never known exactly what was in those newspapers, but quite obviously, it must have been a story that the system did not like. And this was during the current period with President Kibaki. But what the people who invaded the media house did not know is that the media had cameras all around. We are in the age of cameras, and they were caught in camera, and they happened to be policemen. And this raised a lot of expressions, not only among the journalists, but also among the members of the public. And we objected very strongly to the fact that the state can turn itself into a thuggery organization and said policemen to go and destroy a media house because they did not like what the media was writing. And as a result, a law was very quickly after that introduced into Parliament. And it was passed and it was signed. And it said that the government has a right to go into any media house and invade media house and stop the media house from operating if the government suspected that the media house was doing something that is against the state. Fortunately, the media and the journalists and members of the public have been very, very vocal about this issue. And recently, the government agreed that we should renegotiate that law. And as we speak, that law is now being renegotiated so that the government doesn't have the power to invade media houses. Because one of the most important values that was being lost was not only that we have the freedom to read, we have the freedom to get the information, and the media has the freedom to write what they have to write, but that media would be forced to censor themselves so that they are not invaded by the state. So we were very happy about that, and we are hoping that very soon the law will be reinstated so that the government has no power to invade the media houses. One of the experiences I have had in trying to fight for the environment was to teach women the right to protect the environment, especially the immediate environment. And what we used to do was to bring women together, and we would give them information about the environment, how you destroy the environment, who destroys the environment, how you protect the environment, and how you eventually understand that even if the forest is very far from you, many, many miles from you, you need that forest. And you need to be concerned about that forest because that's where the rainfall comes from, that's where the rivers come from, and that's how you are able to grow food to sustain your own livelihoods.